Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining here. So, Stephane from Kalray. We are a semiconductor company in France and doing many core architecture. And one of the challenges that this type of new technology is encountering is the adoption by the industry and especially by the developers. And this is one of the reasons why we joined Khronos a bit more than a year ago. For looking at open standards. So I'm very glad and thank you for Khronos for inviting me presenting this session, which is an introduction to one of the forum of Khronos. And my expectation is that at the end of this presentation, you will know what is the forum, you will know what to expect out of it, and maybe you will be able to pronounce SCAF in one word. Safety. There's a lot of regulations, a lot of standards, but at the end of the day, sometimes it happens that there is some issues around it, and that's the true photograph. It's not a fake one. And beyond regulation and standards, there is some best practice activities that needs really to be open, right? I would be curious to understand how an autonomous car will deal with this situation, by the way. What we say by open standards is what do we mean by that? And first, the why of it. The idea here is to present to you the way to increase usability of software and to avoid some confusions that you may have met in your life. It goes, obviously, from a market point of view to reduce costs and to share development between developers, and ultimately to help on the time to market by providing testing and interoperability. This is one snapshot about what standards or regulation is today. ISO 26262 is well known, is grandfather 61508 for industrial. You heard about SOTIF, you heard about cybersecurity standards. Quite a lot of rules to go with. But concretely, the needs that we have in the industry to develop product is to find a way to answer the use cases within these constraints. And to have the market needs the functions with the car for having the functionality up and running in terms of performance, in terms of production criteria, and in terms of safety. So if I focus and I zoom into it in what is the Autosens focus, obviously you know this by heart, this from the left to the right, the sensing to perception to path planning and to actuation. How to deal with that from a hardware and software point of view is the key challenge, and having a flexibility for OEMs and tier ones to look at it. And how, in the middle, I can ensure that I have the flexibility of switching hardware, of porting my applications, and having abstraction layers helping me for that. And this is where, in fact, API, application programming interface, does help, and this is where Khronos is positioning is open standard. But let's get back one step and says what is an open standard? The actual definition is to help the interoperability to communicate between entities. So entities can be hardware and software. We just saw that. Can be sensor and processor. We see that before. Device or host. There are ways to do that. There's good ways and bad ways. A good standard ultimately help on the differentiation of implementation. This is a way for people to interoperate between the implementation, to help on the diversity, and to encourage the innovation. On the contrary, what is not an open standard is in fact a guidance and a constraint that push you to have implementation details and that prevent innovation. Which means by a truly open standard, it's not driven by one company. That's not a standard. This is a company rule, and driven by industry-wide, being freely to everybody in order to help on the innovation and without royalty payment. Khronos is following these principles. Founded about 20 years ago now, initially focusing on media-centric companies. It is now more than 150 members. It's a non-profit consortium focusing on parallel computing, graphics, and dynamic media API. Members of Khronos are contributing on the API specification. I will not list all the 150 companies, but they are listed here, and the mission that Khronos put to himself is staying open, member-driven, royalty-free standards, and as we said, helping on the silicon acceleration, adoption, providing API on graphics and computer-intensive programs. A lot of standards. We will focus on this one today. From the left to the right, you have the 3D graphic standards. You may have heard about OpenGL, Vulkan. As you can see, there are several OpenGL flavors in the sense that different markets use different type of standards or API, so embedded or safety. 3D asset authoring, Collada, virtual and augmented reality, OpenXR, and more focus for the autonomous car here, the parallel computing, machine learning, and inferencing. And as you can see, the Safety Critical Forum is not a working group. This is a guidance forum that will guide the different working group to adopt safety mindset. Safety is a mindset, and here the guidance is coming from this forum. When you develop the system that we have seen at the beginning with the middleware, in fact, what we are talking about is abstraction of the different levels, from hardware on the left up to even graph programming on the right. You have different level of abstractions that helps this flexibility in implementation. Well, help the flexibility or provide a lot of options that are, from a technology interoperability, sometimes complex. Even if you are selecting one supplier, you need to ensure the maintenance, and if you have several suppliers, you know the story. So this is where Khronos is proposing the open standards in different areas. So on the, I will call that compilation part with intermediate representations, C programming level with OpenCL, C++ higher level of programming with SQL, and even graph programming in one box, computer vision and neural network with tools for that. Doing so, when you are building your ecosystem, you can rely on API that are known, that are available, and that helps people to work on this abstractions level. Now, how does the Khronos consortium helps on that for the safety part? So this is where the Khronos Group has presented the Khronos Safety Critical Advisory Forum, SCAF. And Khronos Group is led by board of director. You have working groups here, specifying the APIs that we have just seen. And you have the forum that is providing guidance to all of them. Providing guidance means, in fact, that the forum is delivering two types of deliverables. This is documentation. I'm sure you have been into some safety analysis and safety development and even potentially assessment. Saying that a forum in a consortium can tell you what to do for going safe in ISO 26262 SLD is nonsense. The expectation of this group is really to provide guidance. It's really to provide a group of experts that will help you going into the software API safety approach. So providing guidelines, providing requirements to help you step towards the safety. If you are expecting a consortium forum to tell you exactly how to qualify an SLC software, this is not true. If you want something more than having a group on LinkedIn that is talking about safety, this is exactly the place. What I mean by that is what you will find in this forum is experts, internal of Khronos, external consultant as well, that are working on those documents on guideline. Different type of safety standards are considered for automotive, for medical, for industrial, and dispatching these items into the groups that are reviewing them and adopting or commenting them. Again, coming to the SCAF is for you a way to have access to experts in the different level of abstractions we have seen, so from semiconductor to high-level programming to compiler, and to understand how the industry is addressing or thinking about the different way of going for certification with that. To illustrate a bit what you can expect out of this forum, on the guidelines, there is categories that the forum has worked on, especially helping, for instance, number one, on selecting a real-time operating system that could provide safety mechanisms already implemented. So that's a work that you have probably been through. Here you have some guidance. And some typical approach when you are going into software ISO 26262 and initial questions that your team may go with for how do I impact my memory management? How do I manage my safety mechanisms around timeout values? Or what does it mean going for a MISRA compliance, which is recommended by the ISO 26262? So concretely, one of the examples here, the forum has worked on listing some of the key operating systems that are considered applicable into safety. Careful about the way I'm saying that, and providing items that are differentiating from each of them. From a requirement documentation point of view, again, some categories. When you go into the part 6 of the ISO 26262, you have the inspection approach, where you need, in fact, to look at each of your requirement traceability as well as on the application of the safety mechanisms. And more or less, you will end up talking about these different topics and verifying that your memory management, static or dynamically, is managed, the deterministic behavior, the type of calls that you want to support, and ensuring that the testability is covered. So it's not an atomic requirement from the ISO 26262, but it can absolutely help your team to go and have a kind of sanity check with the guidelines and the requirements to say that you have not a big gap into your approach. And this is, in fact, the first benefit that you can have. So having access to experts, looking at things that maybe your teams or yourself are not aware of in terms of safety, helping you to check a knowledge database that is built by the forum, and obviously having example of real use case and real practice into the industry. And your own benefit here is giving you a first step or a confirmation on the safety approach that you have, having ultimately helps on the review of your safety approach. What I've been asked to say today as well is that Khronos is welcoming members, but the forum itself is welcoming members for free. So if you want to attend the SCAF, you can do it at no cost. So that's our chairman over there who is inviting you to participate here, or at least understand what you can take benefit from this forum and coming here. This is a medium to long-term investment in time, and you will be part of this big picture here where you will be able to understand the situation of the SCAF and having access to these experts. Today, SCAF is actually looking at OpenCL and Vulkan API. So if you see that relevant for you, this is the right timing, and coming up in the future to the cycle stuff. So today's forum members are listed here. The domains of experts that you can discuss with are the 2626.2, the 178 for the avionics, and the hardware for avionics with 254, and different level of expertise from hardware to application, as we saw at the beginning. So SCAF, I practiced a lot to say that, invite you to come for free, as in free beer. We are talking open standard and free invitation for coming to the SCAF. Thank you.